Welcome back. In the previous episode, I spoke about Enterprise Cyber Risk Management, ECRM, as a business enabler by doing three things. Number one, helping you create competitive advantage. Number two, facilitating more successful M&A activity. And number three, helping you meet emerging ESG requirements. Where do we go from here? If indeed ECRM can become a business enabler, then we need to begin treating it differently from the way we have in the last decade. ECRM must be treated as a strategic transformational program, and that's the concept I will cover today. And in so doing, I will focus on three critical capabilities that any organization serious about establishing, implementing, and maturing an enterprise cyber risk management program must develop, especially indeed if we're going to achieve some of the business objectives that we spoke about in the context of ECRM becoming a business enabler. The three capabilities on which I will focus are number one, people, number two, process, and number three, technology. But then again, what's new? Is there a major transformational program that your organization has ever undertaken without considering these three critical core capabilities? Establishing your ECRM program is about setting the right tone and creating a culture that appreciates and values cyber risk management. As a quick reminder of where we are on our journey, have a look at the slide that I'm exhibiting now. We're in episode number 21 of approximately 30. All of these episodes will be posted to this YouTube channel. If you've not already done so, please subscribe. Also, feel free to post any feedback you may have. And last but not least, if you have any friends or colleagues whom you believe may benefit from this material, please share the YouTube channel link with them. So let's begin by asking, why bother developing these capabilities at all? What's the value in doing so? Too much of what's happening today in too many organizations is tactical, technical, spot welding, and I may add firefighting if not whack-a-mole. We must become more strategic, more business-oriented, and more architectural in our approach. That's not going to happen if we don't treat ECRM as a strategic transformational program. As I recently wrote in a blog post for the advisory board, when asked if there was a growing disparity between digital adoption and security maturity, I said, absolutely, unequivocally, there is a growing disparity between digital adoption and security maturity. The healthcare industry, decades behind most other industries in the adoption of information technology, is even further behind other industries when it comes to security maturity. One of the reasons for the disparity is the failure to regard establishing, implementing, and maturing ECRM as a strategic transformational program. Any truly transformational program must include treating it as the establishment of a self-sustaining, ongoing initiative, not as a project with a start date or an end date. Think journey, not destination. I will briefly comment as we go through the next several slides on three critical capabilities: people, process, and technology. I'm doing so and limiting it to three to stick with my rule of threes. All of these capabilities, including governance, of course, and engagement, are equally important. By the way, I cover all five capabilities in detail in my book, Stop the Cyber Bleeding, specifically in Chapter 6, which is entitled Set ECRM Strategic Objectives. So let's get started. From a people perspective, I would encourage you to think about leadership, oversight, culture, the skills and knowledge and experience of your team, whether it's insourced or outsourced, having the right number of people doing the right kinds of things. The people capability, like most other initiatives, is critically important. From a process perspective, think about compliance and the related requirements. around policies, procedures, and practices. I always think about process as providing order and discipline. Think about standards. In fact, as it relates to HIPAA requirements, think about OCR guidance that's published specifically on the subject of risk analysis and risk management. Think about comprehensiveness. And of course, think about NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, which I cannot recommend strongly enough to serve as the basis of your program. From a technology perspective, think for a moment at the strategic level. Like any other process in your business, you're going to be looking for ways to find the right tools and the right level of automation. And this means from the engine room to the boardroom. Think about software enablement. Think about telemetry. Think about monitoring. Think about GRC systems. How can you best automate the 4-step NIST process about which we spoke in an earlier episode? Remember, those 4 steps were frame, assess, respond, and monitor. Bringing it all back together, establishing, implementing, and maturing these critical ECRM capabilities is about setting the right tone and creating a culture of cyber risk management. As C-suite executives and board members, think of ECRM as a strategic transformational program, just as you do digitization. All transformational programs involve developing these key capabilities. And don't forget, the business need for enterprise cyber risk management is not going away. The need is only deepening. And by the way, if you're not a member of the executive team or a board member, you can help your board tremendously by allowing them to think about ECRM in terms of these important capabilities. Keep it at the forest level, not among the trees, and certainly not among the weeds by spewing vulnerability scans and penetration tests in front of them. This approach allows them to treat ECRM as a strategic transformational program. So to sum it up, we talked about treating ECRM as a strategic transformational program, not as a project with a start date and an end date. Like all transformational programs, there are core capabilities that must be developed to build it and sustain it. We specifically talked about people, process, and technology. As always, I'm ending the session with suggested actions as well as references and resources. I encourage you, while the material is still fresh in your mind, to consider undertaking some of these actions and certainly to review some of the references and resource material that I have provided to you. In the next episode, I'll discuss the concept of funding your ECRM program. We'll come at it from 3 different angles. Number 1, a budgeting change you can make today that'll help stem the tide. Number 2, as it relates to any ECRM debt that you may have accrued over the last decade, I'll talk about 3 potential sources of funding that may help you. And then last but not least, whatever funds that you may have, we'll talk about the best way to make decisions as to how to allocate those funds. Until then, if you've not already done so, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Be well, be secure, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.